I did not believe the old stories at first, not until the night the drums spoke my name. My village, Ayanfe, lay where the red earth met the tall grasses, where the wind carried gossip faster than people, and where the elders said every shadow had a memory. I was born there, raised there, and until that night, I believed I would die there without ever touching magic. They called me the Quiet One, not because I had nothing to say, but because no one waited to hear it. In Ayanfe, voices were measured by age and strength. The elders spoke first, the warriors spoke loudest, and the rest of us, especially someone like me, thin-armed and soft-spoken, learned to listen. Yet I listened more deeply than most. I heard the forest breathe at dawn. I heard the river argue with the rocks. And sometimes, when the moon was full, I heard something else, something calling. Beyond our village stood a forest no child was meant to enter. The elders called it Igbo Ashiri, the Grove of Secrets. They said spirits slept there. They said drums buried beneath its roots still remembered the hands that once played them. They said if the grove called your name and you answered, you would never be the same. So, of course, we stayed away, until the year the rains forgot us. The sky hardened, the soil cracked, crops bowed their heads and did not rise again. Mothers whispered prayers into empty pots. Even the elders, proud and tall, began to look at the ground instead of the horizon. That was when I heard it clearly, a drumbeat, slow and steady, rising from Igbo Ashiri, and beneath it, my name. I tried to ignore it. I pressed my ears shut at night. I sang to drown it out, but the drum followed me, in my dreams, in the river's reflection, in the echo of my own heartbeat. Finally, my grandmother noticed. She was old enough to remember when the village still believed. She studied my face for a long time, then said quietly, "The grove does not call the careless, it calls the listening." I asked her what would happen if I went. She did not answer. Instead, she tied a small leather charm around my wrist and whispered, "Whatever speaks to you there, listen fully. Fear closes ears." That night, while the village slept, I followed the drum. The forest did not welcome me, but it did not reject me either. The trees stood too still. The air tasted ancient. Every step felt like walking through someone else's memory. Then I saw it, a drum half buried beneath the roots of a massive iroko tree. Its skin was cracked with age, but it pulsed, alive. When I touched it, the forest exhaled. A voice rose, not from the drum, not from the trees, but from everywhere. You hear because you listen. You listen because you are empty enough to be filled. The ground trembled. Images flooded my mind. Ancestors dancing, rains obeying rhythm, villages surviving because someone dared to answer a call. The voice spoke again. Beat the drum, not with strength, with truth. My hands shook. I had never been chosen for anything before, but I struck the drum. The sound that followed was not loud, it was right. The forest moved with it. The wind shifted. Clouds began to gather far away, rumbling like something waking from sleep. But the voice returned, heavier now. Every gift eats something in return. If you call the rain, you will lose what you hide. If you lead your people, you will never be unseen again. I thought of my quietness, my safety, my invisibility. Then I thought of the empty fields. I struck the drum again. Rain fell before I reached the edge of Ayanfe. At first, the villagers stared at the sky. Then they saw me, mud-stained, trembling, carrying a sound that had no source. The elders demanded answers. The warriors watched carefully. And for the first time in my life, everyone listened when I spoke. I told them what the grove had asked. I told them the drum did not belong to one person, but it required one voice willing to speak first. The rains returned, the crops recovered, the village lived. But something had changed. People began to ask my opinion. Children followed my steps. Silence no longer protected me, it exposed me. And some did not like that. Years later, when my hair had begun to gray, a child asked me if the drum still spoke. I smiled. The drum never stopped, I said. People just forget how to listen. I took the child's hand and pointed toward Igbo Ashiri. Every generation has a grove, every heart has a drum. The question is not whether it calls your name, I leaned closer and whispered, but whether you are brave enough to answer and pay the price of being heard. And somewhere, deep in the forest, the drum remembered me. Some stories are told to entertain, others are told to remind you that silence is not the same as insignificance.